Hi, good morning, everyone. So welcome to June's webinar. So today we'll be walking through everything. Oh, hang on. I think. So today we're going to be walking through the rechecks preparation, just to give you an overview of the process and how it all works, and as well as discussing some DCS 2.0 updates and recent staff changes at CLA as well. So just before we get started, the usual housekeeping applies. So the session is being recorded, as Imogen just alluded to, and we'll share the recording with everyone who registered later in the week, or you can watch it back or share it with colleagues who couldn't attend today. We'll also send out a copy of the slides and the Q&A in the following week. So you can listen through computer speakers, or you can dial in by phone. If you have any audio issues, you can switch to this in Teams via More Options and update your device settings there. Everyone will stay muted throughout the session, but please do use the chat to ask questions at any point. We'll keep an eye on it throughout, and of course we'll have a regular. So I'm joined by Imogen today, who has just come back, and also with us is Philomena, our Interim Product Manager. Phil, I don't know if you want to say hello. There you go. I'll bring you on screen.
I just want to say hi, and I'm going to go off screen again, so I don't want to be disruptive, but hello, everybody.
Have you with us? So, on the agenda today, we will first be going through the recheck process. Actually, no, on the agenda there, also be going through the changes to the CLA DCS team. And then we'll go through the to-dos for rechecks. So what you need to do as an HCI, which will include a demonstration of using an HCI report for the purpose of checking ISBNs, reviewing publishers and titles, which need to be reviewed against the excluded list on the CLA website. And then we'll also give some updates on how DCS 2.0 is evolving. Then we'll have a Q&A at the end. Okay. Over to you, Imogen.
Thanks, Stephen. Sorry, I'm on mute. Yes, thank you. So first of all, team updates. Really, it's the product management update, because Stephen and Monica remain unchanged and product support. But basically, you might be seeing things coming from me, from Phil, from Claire. So I thought we'd just address it very quickly. We're still in a transition phase. So this is kind of interim. Next month, we should have a bit more clarity about what's happening going forward. But for the time being, Claire is moving off the DCS. Phil is managing the platform for now, and I'm back. Hi everyone, thank you, very sweet of you to be so kind in the chat. I'm still on a phased return, so I'm kind of coming back slowly. So for the moment, Phil is in charge, but it's a transition, so we'll tell you what's going on in a kind of more concrete one a little bit later. But in the meantime, you might see emails and messages and things coming from, frankly, any of us. So that'll be why. Okay, that was just a very brief update. Let's get on. Thank you very much. Let's get on with the content though. So permissions recheck. So now that we've done rollover, that's great. Thank you very much, everyone, for getting all your stuff done very timely. We will pass that on to Claire, Beth, and thank you. The next big hurdle is the permissions rechecks. So let's have a quick review of that today, because the next webinar is like 4 days before we'll be rechecking. So we thought we should cover off what's going to happen today. So first up, what are the rechecks? So firstly, let's just do a quick recheck of the CLA license. What's included? Basically, everything that's published in the UK in terms of books and journals and magazines, unless they are specifically excluded. And then we have a lot of reciprocal arrangements with overseas publishers as well, and so they would all be included. However, not everything is. And so rechecks is basically the requirement for HEIs to check once every year that they're not using anything that has become excluded. Generally, we just check for things that have been newly excluded because presumably your license is accurate. Sorry, your declaration on each of the content requests is accurate for the time. So basically, we're checking for anything that has become excluded over the past year. So what are they and what might they be? Well, some items can become excluded. They tend to be for things like maybe a publisher has sold an imprint, so they can't give permission to it anymore. Sometimes an author might say, actually, I'm not comfortable with inclusion. I mean, it's rare, but occasionally that happens. These kinds of things. Generally, they're at title level, but they can be at publisher or at artist level. So we check at title level. What we do basically is run a complete check. Well, so they'll take place around about the 1st of August. I think actually that's a Saturday this year, so it'll probably be the 3rd, but we'll confirm closer to the time. And we will basically run a check on everything in the DCS against our check permissions tool. So we'll run it through the API. It'll happen automatically. In the new system, last year and before then, we had to do it kind of fairly manually in batches. In the new system, we can just do it for everyone at the same time. So rather than it kind of being done over a week, it should be just done. We'll tell you exactly when it's going to happen a little bit closer to the time. As I say, the 1st is a Saturday, so probably it'll be the 3rd, the 4th. You don't need to do anything to prepare. We will handle it entirely, but if you want to, you can now run a check for yourselves, and we'll show you how to do that in a moment. Why would you want to? Well, we actually, I mean, we included this functionality in response to your feedback, that actually by the time you get the list after the 1st of August, it doesn't give you an awful lot of time to seek out any alternative permissions that you might need. So running it yourself means that you can pick up anything that's been excluded to date. And if you want to, you can get started on that process of kind of checking and finding alternative permissions, that kind of thing. We will still run the one on the 1st of August, and it is possible that things might have become excluded between you running it and us running it, in which case you'll need to do that as well. So you will still need to just double check that there's nothing different from when you ran it, but you can make a start now if you want to. We will check all material that's listed in the DCS as covered by the CLA license, and if anything, assuming it remains covered, then there's nothing that you need to do. Everything will remain exactly the same. Anything that's no longer covered by the license will become inaccessible to students after rechecks. So that would be anything that's come up as not found or anything that's been manually overridden. So if it's come up as not found and you've overridden it, generally we'll have managed to put it onto check permissions. But if it's still not coming up on check permissions, then it will come up as not found and break. Our data team have ongoing work, regular checks to update check permissions. So they'll basically run a report from the DCS to see anything that's come up as not found, and then they'll check what the permissions ought to be and add it to check permissions. So generally, if you've checked with us and we've said, yes, it's covered, and you've updated that as an override in the DCS, then you'll find that rechecks, it just goes through and it's not a problem. However, occasionally, if you've overridden something quite close to the rechecks date, it might not have had time to be picked up by the data team and added, so you might have to re-override it there. But generally speaking, anything that is covered will remain fine. And if you put an override in and it's still valid, in other words, you've said that you have direct permissions in perpetuity, in other words, you have not put an extent limit, or you've put an extent limit in the future, then that will remain as well, and you'll be fine. So I just thought we might run through what was in the DCS, what check permission said before the rechecks, what check permission says after. So these are the scenarios, what will happen in the DCS and what you need to do. So if it was covered before and it's still covered, nothing changes in the DCS and you don't have to do a thing. If it was covered before but it's now excluded, then the DCS will change to CLA license excluded, the link will break and it will be in your the status of pending license. So you're going to then have to either ask the lecturer to select an alternative text and delete it in the DCS, or seek alternative permissions. For example, go to the publisher directly. If it was previously covered and is now coming up as not found, I can't think why that would be. It's not really a common scenario, but what would happen hypothetically is, again, it would go license pending, license status unknown, and the link would break. Again, you can check permissions just to double check, or contact the education team and they'll figure it out for you, and then override it if it is covered, or arrange alternative as above. If it was excluded or not found and you had overridden it and that override is still valid, then actually there'll be no change. It will appear in the report as excluded or not found, because what that searches for is the check permissions. But actually, when you get into the DCS, you'll find that it's fine and nothing's changed and you're good to go. If you'd overridden it, but that override has expired, then it will come up as excluded, not found in the DCS, and the link will break. You'll have to seek alternative permissions. And if beforehand, this is one of the big scenarios, if beforehand wasn't able to return a response from check permissions because there's no ISN, that will remain the case. And unfortunately, you're going to have to recheck them. Now, if you've got an override on it, the override will be retained and no change will happen. We won't break the links, because 9 times out of 10, actually, it's fine. But we do ask you to check that these are still valid. And unfortunately, because there's no ISN, we can't do that automatically. We literally have to check the publishers against the excluded publisher list. I say we, I mean you. That is an HEI responsibility. Now, Stephen's going to walk through exactly how to do that shortly, but that is one of the tasks. But again, that's after the rechecks. There's nothing that you need to do ahead of time, and we'll run through it next month again, actually, what you need to do afterwards. So if something does become excluded, it'll appear on the dashboard in the license excluded section. So if you follow that link, it'll just take you to the list of content requests and you can work through them one by one. It's good to keep an eye on that during the first week of August, just to catch any after we've done the rechecks. If you think that it's been excluded in error, then you can contact the education team and they'll look into it for you. The license status unknown, again, we'll group those on the dashboard. They'll come under that link, license status unknown. These are the ones that are not yet on check permissions. Again, if you've checked with the team very close to rechecks time, it may be that it's just not found it onto the system, so you can just apply the same override. But if you didn't have one before, then you will need to contact the team and check. You can email permissions@cla.co.uk to check anything that you're not sure of. That will go through to the education team, so Margaret and Sarah. Good. So where I mentioned that if you have titles with no ISN, we're not able to do that automatic matching with check permissions tool. So you're going to have to do that yourself, unfortunately. The vast majority of items do have an ISN. If it has one, it needs to be included when you add it to the DCS or when you find it in our system. But some don't have one at all, or they were published before the 1960s, where that was the mainstream introduction of ISNs. These need to be checked every year to make sure they're still covered by the license. So essentially, around the 1st of August, we will run the rechecks. The links won't be broken, so the students will have continuous access to these, and that means that you've got an opportunity to review the titles without us breaking them and making you relink them. We would expect that you do that before the 1st of September, so before the kind of new academic year really starts. Yeah, we would ask that you complete it by then. I think at this point, I'm going to hand over to Stephen to show us how you would actually do that. Thanks, Stephen.
Oh, thanks, Imogen. So, yeah, as Imogen has alluded to, when you're looking up titles with no ISN, the way to do that is by running an HEI report. So I have a dummy one here that I will share. Just see if can you see that? Okay, great. Brilliant. So hopefully you all know how to generate an HEI report, but we'll include the details of that in the
All right, Stephen, I can't see that. I don't know if you need to toggle the content on.
I have, but it's showing for me, and I had a thumbs up in the chat from someone who could see it.
Oh, if you've got a thumbs up.
Yeah.
Okay, fine. It's just me then. Okay,
so...
I'll figure it out. Thank you.
Okay. So what we need to do. Brilliant. Okay, you can see the Excel. Okay. So what we need to do is just filter for all those titles that do not have ISNs. So this is just a random selection of titles that I've taken and anonymized. So we go to the ISN column, it's column R, and we just filter for blanks. Then we also want to filter for the license type. So we want those that are covered by the CLA license. So once we have that, I'll just take all this filtered data and insert it into a new tab. Now that I have this, if there were just a few of them, you could do them one by one. You know, if there were like 3 or 4 titles with no ISN, you could check them manually. That wouldn't take very long. But as there's quite a lot of these, I think there's a few hundred, what we can do instead is use a pivot table. And what that will let us do is group them by publisher, which is a much quicker way of checking them. So if I go insert pivot table, that will open in a new tab, and you want to just scroll down for the fields and select publisher. And you want to first drag it into rows, and then drag it again into values. And that will give us here a grouping of titles by their publisher. Note that it won't group any blank ones, so if there are any titles that haven't got a publisher listed, they won't be grouped here, but you can obviously check those at the end after all these. And what you can do is click on any of these to go to the publisher in question. So if I go here, it will take me to the 2 titles that are relevant. So then, after we've done this, we want to use this data to see which are excluded or not. So if I just share another window, which you can hopefully see. How's that? Yep, great. So on this page, I'll check permissions tool, you just scroll down to where it says excluded works. And it's not loading for me, that's useful. There we go. And then of course, we're looking for higher education license exclusions. So for here, for any publishers that you think may be excluded, you'd go to the list. So I'll take a random one here. We've got, say, Secker and Warburg. I have no idea if they're excluded or not, but for the purpose of this, let's assume they might be. and you just search the name. And if they're not on the list, that means they're still included, so you don't need to do anything. You can keep on using it. If they were on this list, however, you'd then have to go to the request in question and take further action from there. So if a title has become excluded where formerly it was included, you have a choice of what to do. You can either delete the request, you can change the you can cancel the override, or you can mark it as excluded in the system. It's up to you what you do, but the end result is the same. Basically, if it's no longer included, you won't be able to use that unless you've obtained a permission to do so. So let me just flick back to the screen I was on. Is the Excel on screen now? Yeah, seems to be. Great. So for any that are excluded, what you just do, again, I've anonymized all these, so these requests IDs aren't the actual ones, but you could just take the request ID, go to the ID in the DCS, and then change it there. So again, you'd either have to mark it as excluded, cancel the override, or just delete the request altogether. It's up to you what you do. Or one alternate thing you can do is you can go to completed requests in the DCS, filter for items with no ISM, and then delete them from the menu there. It's a potentially quicker way of doing it. Okay, Imogen, have I missed anything there? I think that's everything, isn't it?
Yeah, I think that's the main thing. If you go back to the deck, then we've got just a few screenshots of how to manage it in the DCS. But you've talked through it already, so it could be fairly quick.
Sorry, the PowerPoint is just loading again. It's being very slow.
Go back to the beginning.
Yeah, I'll cycle through. So yes, so as mentioned, if you have very few titles with no ISMs, you can do them manually. And you can just search them in the DCS. And if the publisher hasn't become excluded, you don't need to do anything else until the following year. So there are some questions that come up in the past about the rechecking process, which every year we get asked. So we thought we'd cover some of those here. So the first question is, can students still access content during the rechecks? And the answer is yes, they can. Until and unless something's excluded, students are able to maintain access. All that would change that is if the link breaks for a request, but as long as it's still live and the link is there on the system, the students can still access it. The second question we get a lot is, if you've overridden content as covered by the CLA license after verifying it was included, will it get flagged again during rechecking? The answer to that is usually it's not. We run a report through the year to identify any items that the DCS check permissions check as flagged as not found or excluded. So our operations team work through those and update the tool accordingly. But if you override items in July, they may not get processed in time and could get flagged again because it's a rolling process. So to avoid that happening, we have an email address you can get in touch with, which is permissions@cla.co.uk. Again, that'll be in the notes we send out. And you can just email us if you're unsure about anything. But also a reminder that selecting covered by CLA license doesn't regenerate a link if it's been broken. You must scroll down on the content page and click generate link again just to complete the process.
It's maybe worth confirming that link that you generate will be the same one as was there previously. So nothing will change if you have a more manual process of adding links to student lists.
Yeah, that's the case, yeah. And Imogen, I'm going to hand back to you just for any DCS2 updates.
Yeah, it was just worth on that last slide mentioning that there are 2 knowledge base articles that go
yes.
through all
Sorry,
of
good point.
this in great detail. So the links are there and we'll send them out after the session. But you can also just kind of search for them on knowledge base. So yeah. Yes, I will do the control. And we're here. Oh, wow, that's jazzy. Okay, so DCS 2. So it's worth just saying that yes, I was very much there for the planning, but then I missed a big chunk of the build. So there's a few things that I'm still catching up on, but nonetheless, it's looking pretty good, I think. Oh, hang on, I've got a question in the chat before we move on. What's the best way to add an ISN to a completed request if we find that one does exist? Oh, that is an interesting question. If you do find that one does exist, I mean, I'm not sure. I'd have to check if you can retrospectively add an ISN to a completed request, because the ISN is the kind of...
Yeah, I don't believe that's possible in the old system. It's probably
The
not.
old system it definitely wasn't. In the new one it might be. I think we'll have to check
doubt it
that,
unless
but I
it
think
was-
it's worth saying it would be incredibly rare, because we now actually have a huge number of things that come to us from various different sources that are in the system that we connect to get our data. So you should find that there's fewer things that you're having to add manually, but there will still be some. So Gemma, we will find out what the best way to add an ISN to a completed request is, if indeed it's possible at all, and include that in our Q&A when we send out after the webinar. If there's any other questions about this, we'll pick them up at the Q&A later. For the time being, let's just have a quick update on DCS 2.0. So first up, what's happened since the last webinar? So there was a release on the 12th of June. Oh, I'm clicking, but nothing's happening. There we go. There was a release on the 12th of June, and it included the following bug fixes. So emailing a lecturer, there's now a lot more flexibility in what you can do. It doesn't just automatically and only go to the connected lecturer in the system. So you can add additional ones up to 10, and the email that you're sending it to doesn't already have to be in the DCS. As long as it's a valid email address, you'll be able to send that. The rejected request filter, there's now an academic year filter, so it'll be easier to find exactly what you're looking for. Magazine articles. So you may have noticed on the search tab that there's now a third tab, which is magazine articles. Yeah, we, at least at the time being, these are stored kind of separately from journals in the system. So you can add magazine articles as well. That's new. We had I think this was a bug that was reported, where the ownership column was appearing blank. So this bug fix has been done, but in terms of sort of historical requests, it won't appear on anything that was created before the bug fix happened, which was released, which was the 12th of June. So the ownership column will be complete, but only for things that are it can't pick up historical things that aren't in the system. And finally, there's now a link on the dashboard to sign up to the newsletter, which will send out webinar invites. So you're all here, which means that you all get them. Brilliant. But if you've got colleagues who don't and who would like to, then they can sign up on the dashboard. Okay, so that's what's happened. There are some things that we're in the process of investigation, or are kind of queued up to happen. So we are aware, we've been made aware that there's just a couple of little glitches with the API. One is that journal articles aren't pulling through correctly in some of the RLMSs. So that's going to need, it's very minor updates to the code, and that'll be released as soon as we possibly can. And at the same time, we're just going to streamline some of the terminology in the API. So I think there's about 4 updates that will be done in total. Some of these will just make things work better instantly. Some of them, the RLMSs, will then need to do a very minor update their end. So we are aware, we're working on it. I don't have a date currently, but as soon as we do, we'll let you and obviously our LMS partners know. EHES, a couple of things about EHES actually. One, content or EHES content or orders weren't appearing on cloned requests. Well, they weren't appearing at all. Now we've done one fix where they now appear once the order is complete. But until it's accepted and completely gone through on our side as well, they're not available for other requests to access. So the originating one, as soon as you've accepted it, will be available for students, but until it's also been accepted and completed on our side, they won't be available for other requests, be that your own or other HEIs to use. If you've gone through everything on your side and got it to the point of acceptance and it's still not appearing, probably it's sitting in, it will have been, there are a few reasons why things might not automatically go through. For example, if there's a page number mismatch. So, for example, if you put in a lot of HEIs, if the lecturer's asked for, say, chapter 3, and you don't know what exact page number or page range chapter 3 is, just put a holding number 1 or 999 or something like that until you get the EHES through, and then you can update the page numbers. Unfortunately, as soon as it's added with an old page number, the system will pick up that the number of pages in it is not the same as the page numbers requested, and it'll hold it in our queue until we've managed to resolve that. So we'll look at whether there's ways to speed up our processing to make that happen faster. But if you do notice that something's that you've accepted it and it's not visible, just flag it with the team and we'll try and expedite it. But as I say, we will be looking at, other ways that we can speed this up on our side as well. And then this is very definitely a bug. It's a known bug and we'll get onto it. But just to let you know, there's an issue at the moment where if you had put an EHES order through and it had failed, and then you're trying to put it through again, can happen quite often. The British Library might say, oh, we don't have access to that at the moment, but do try again later. The system isn't accepting it. It's a bug, we will sort it. But in the meantime, we've got a workaround. Again, the support team, so Stephen and Monica, are able to do something behind the scene to close the previous one, and then it'll be available to reorder. So if you're getting can't be placed because there's already an order and you can't see it and you don't think that there's a valid one, just get in touch. They will be able to sort it behind the scenes. Again, it's a known bug. We will sort it, but it might take a little bit of time. Okay, so these are the things we're working on currently. What's next? Oh, I've just lost my what's next thing. There we go. So the work to enable you to order second extracts directly from the DCS is it's in its final stage. We've still got a little bit of testing and things like that to do, but it's absolutely on its way. The idea was to release it ahead of the new academic year. We still hope to do that. I don't have an exact date at the moment, but we'll send out comms and let you know as soon as we do have a date. And then after that, we don't have any other concrete sort of enhancements and things happening. Obviously, if we get bugs that are blocking you from doing your work, we'll treat those as urgent. But for anything else, what we'd like to do now is just take a period of reflection. We want to give the new system just a little bit of time to bed in, and then we'll take stock of how it's working. As we're in a bit of a transition here, I don't know exactly what format this review is going to take or the timelines, but essentially we're just going to let it settle so we can assess how things are, and then we'll look at trying to get feedback in a organised way. Obviously, if you come across bugs, continue to report them as usual. So more to come on that, I think, is what I'm trying to say. And I think that takes us to the end of our planned content today. Questions. The chat is very much open. There is a Q&A, but to be honest, it's probably easier to just use the chat, and then we can get anything answered that we can here, or we'll check and send out in the Q&A after the session. So over to you. Any questions? How do you manually recheck? Oh, yes, I didn't do that. Okay, just give me a little moment and I'll see if I can get over onto the live site and actually show you. So here is the DCS now. I need to...
I'm there already, Imogen, if you want me to.
No, it should be fine. I just need to figure out how I share. There we go. There's the share button. I think it's... Let's go for a window. Pretty sure that this is what I'm trying to share. Yes. Oh, hang on, I've got me and not the content. Why can't I see the content? There we go. Right. So I'm on the dashboard for our fake institution here. All you're going to go do is go into this menu on the left-hand side, click check all permissions, and then click start check. That's it. I've got a ton that I've done over the past week. So rather
Imogen,
than well,
your screen is off. You need to click the slider to bring the screen on.
I thought I had. Oh gosh, this new updated system. I really thought I was. I can see that I'm sharing. I think you might be getting what I was getting before.
No, Bethan in the chat has just said she can't see it.
Why would that be? Because it looks like you can. I mean, it's showing for me. I don't know what else I can do, really. Nobody can see it. Okay, I'm going to try stop sharing and I'll try again. Share this bit. Oh, some people can. Right, how about now? Oh, okay, so it seems like some people can and some people can't.
But some people can in the chat. That's
Okay, well, I'm going to carry on, and if you can't and you need to go back, it will be in the webinar. So that's very peculiar that some people can and some people can't. Not to worry. If you can't, I'll talk through what I'm doing. So in the left-hand menu, there's an option called check all permissions. When you click on that, you're taken to a screen with a table that just has all of the check permissions reports that you've done over time. And at the top right, there's a thing called start check. If you click start check, you get there. Are you sure you want to? Yes, I do. So, and then my report goes into the queue. Depending on how many you've got to check, it can take a little while. It'll probably be done by the time I finish this, but for now I'm going to download a previous one. And then when I open it, of course I need to change my sharing screen. Let me just do that very quickly. I'm going to... Oh, it's actually come up. That's good. So this is what it looks like. It's not very exciting. Basically, it will tell you, here's the request ID. Time is fairly irrelevant. The column D, error column, just tells you, was it able to check? What I'm going to do is just put some filters on this. And then I can see that the only option is success. So everything went through successfully, which is good. And then column C will tell you, now this is important to note, column C only tells you what the check permissions answer is. If you have an override, it's not registered here. So this is why when we tell you to do the checks, we suggest that you use the HEI report, because that has the license status that you have applied. This is literally only the check permissions result. But you can see I've got a combination of permitted, not found, and excluded. So the permitted ones I don't need to worry about. These are the ones I might want to look at. But as I say, I've probably put overrides on some of these that are still valid, because I know they're excluded and I've got direct permissions. So I would not use this to do the checks. I would then go to the HEI report and use that. Okay, so that's how you do your own check. Sorry, I did say we'd show you and then didn't necessarily do that. Let's find the chat again. Too many screens.
It took a
Any
while
other?
to clear for some people, but
Okay, I see. It's just a lag. There we are.
yeah.
Any other questions? So, not there for the first couple of weeks of August. Is it going to be an issue if you do them later in the month? I mean, we ask that you do it by the 1st of September. The only ones that will break are anything that has become excluded in the interim. I would imagine it'll be a small proportion, but it's possible that there's something that students trying to access which is now excluded. If you want to, you could run this report early and just kind of at least have a look at how many those are, and then you'll see how much of an issue it's going to be. It's fine for us because we ask you to complete by the 1st of September, but it's kind of up to you really, Beth. And if you want to run one yourself first, you can do. Any other questions? So you've got a couple of minutes to pop them in the chat. In the meantime, just looking ahead, so we will have another webinar at the end of July. I suspect a lot of people will be on holiday, but we'll do that anyway, and we'll probably have a quick reminder of how to check, because it'll just be a matter of days until we run the rechecks, and then obviously we'll have an update as well. If there is anything that you would like us to cover in these webinars, or you have anything you would like to share with the community, we're very happy to have guest presenters. Just pop us a message, probably through the support channel, and we'd be very happy to look into it. There's no more questions. There are no more questions in the chat as far as I can see. So I think, unless anybody is very quick typing, we'll call it a day. Next webinar, 30th of July. Ooh, we haven't set an official date. It'll be the last Thursday is our usual. So if that's the 30th, yes, we can have a quick.
That'll be the 30th.
And that is our goal, yes. We try to send invites out a couple of weeks before. I know it was only a week before today, transition period. Once again, apologies. And we'll see you then. If you're having a holiday in the meantime, wishing you much fun. And in the meantime, lots of ice and ice cream. Thank you very much for coming. It's lovely to be back, and we'll see you next time. Bye, everyone.